Hello, and welcome to In Focus. Today we will uncover how Vladimir Putin puts on a military uniform and threatens Europe and the United States. But the missiles hitting Ukrainian cities are now being shipped in from North Korea. Two stories on a war Russia is running out of ways to win. Admiral James Stavridis says the Kremlin is drawing up scenarios to test NATO: cyber attacks, sabotage, unmarked soldiers in the Baltics. He also says the alliance holds the stronger hand. And Ukraine is already collecting on Russia's shadow fleet, one tanker at a time.
Moscow is considering testing NATO's resolve in the coming years, despite the ongoing war against Ukraine, believes former Supreme Allied Commander Europe, James Stavridis. The Kremlin is developing scenarios for new cyber attacks, sabotage targeting industrial infrastructure, as well as military operations against the Baltic states using so-called little green men, Russian troops, in uniforms without insignia. NATO must develop plans for a proportionate response, the admiral believes.
It is especially important for NATO to demonstrate its cyber capabilities so that Putin understands his own vulnerability and realizes that he cannot launch a cost-free attack against the United States or Europe. NATO clearly has greater military capabilities than its adversary and is capable of delivering a powerful response. Russia's Kaliningrad exclave is an attractive target for a direct retaliatory strike, given the concentration of vulnerable military assets there. Geographically, it is also proportionate to any attacks against the Baltic states. James Stavridis, former Supreme Allied Commander Europe, 2009 to 2013, in an opinion column for Bloomberg.
Recall that in December 2025, 3 Russian border guards illegally crossed the temporary control line between Estonia and Russia near the Narva River. They remained on the Estonian side for about 20 minutes before returning. On July 30th, a Russian Kh-101 missile crashed in Poland's Lublin voivodeship, and in early August, a drone equipped with explosives and a detonator was discovered near a Ukrainian Antonov aircraft at Germany's Leipzig/Halle airport. NATO does not want to become directly involved in a conflict with Russia, but individual member states have the right to act independently, experts say.
NATO membership does not take away a country's right to respond independently or to take risks. Take Turkey, for example. It acts independently of everyone else and accepts those risks. When it shot down Russian aircraft, it accepted the risk that if a conflict had broken out, other NATO members might not have come to its aid because it had acted without prior consultations, and so on.
On August 12th, Putin threatened EU countries with new provocations at sea. The Russian dictator arrived at exercises involving the Pacific Fleet on Sakhalin and once again threatened European countries during his speech. According to Putin, so-called conflict potential is growing between Russia and NATO. He criticized the seizure of Russian vessels carrying sanctioned oil and threatened retaliatory measures. The Kremlin hopes to use new provocations to force concessions from the West, believes Mikhailo Podolyak, an advisor to the office of the President of Ukraine.
As long as Putin is in power, the war will continue. As long as he has the resources to wage it, the war will continue. As long as he believes there will be no punishment for using a ballistic missile against the center of a major European city, he will continue the war. They always try to wage war against civilians as brutally as possible, using fear to intimidate people, and then amplify it through information warfare, saying, "You see, we are brutal, we are barbarians. Be afraid of us, accept our terms," and so on.
Russian ships carry not only oil and liquefied natural gas, but also grain illegally taken from the occupied territories of Ukraine and transported abroad for sale. In March, Swedish authorities, at the request of Ukrainian prosecutors, detained a vessel flying the flag of Guinea that was allegedly carrying stolen Ukrainian food. On August 5th, Sweden's Supreme Court ruled that the vessel should be handed over to Ukraine.
This landmark decision sets an important precedent, demonstrating that decisive action by law enforcement and prosecutors, combined with an independent and impartial judicial system, can turn the principle of accountability into concrete results. We continue working to counter Russia's shadow fleet and its ability to generate funds to finance the war. Andriy Sybiha, Acting Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, on X social media.
Meanwhile, the United States has, for the first time, sent confiscated Russian shadow fleet tankers for scrapping. In January, U.S. forces detained the vessels Marinera and Bella 1 in the North Atlantic. They will be sent to India for dismantling. Previously, confiscated tankers were resold to private companies, allowing them to potentially end up back in Russian hands, reported by Andriy Dimitrenko, UATV News.
Now, the state of the arsenal behind that bravado. For the first time in its history, Russia cannot fight without reinforcements from Pyongyang, missiles and soldiers. President Zelensky calls it a sign of escalation, not peace. Ukraine's answer is direct. Hunt down the launchers and choke off the parts.
Russia is increasingly using North Korean ballistic missiles in its war against Ukraine. Overnight on August 11th, Russian forces attacked Zaporizhzhia with Zircon missiles, guided aerial bombs, and North Korean-made ballistic missiles. According to Ukraine's Foreign Intelligence Service, these weapons can deviate from their intended trajectory by up to 15 kilometers. President Volodymyr Zelensky sees Russia's use of North Korean missiles as another sign of further escalation, rather than a move towards peace.
This is the first time in Russia's history that it no longer has a safe strategic rear, and this is the first time it cannot wage war without reinforcements from North Korea. Now they are preparing to deploy an additional Korean contingent on their territory. They have received, imagine this, additional ballistic missiles from North Korea. And everyone in the world needs to understand what this means. It is not only about people's lives in Ukraine. It is not only a threat to us. North Korean ballistic technology is being improved through cooperation with Russia.
As the Ukrainian leader has previously stated, the number of North Korean troops in Russia continues to grow, from hundreds to thousands. The plan is to increase the contingent to between 30,000 and 50,000 personnel. According to a report by the Institute for the Study of War, North Korea has deployed a missile unit to Russia, along with more than 100 ballistic missiles. Analysts say this gives Pyongyang an opportunity to test and improve its missile technology in real combat conditions.
North Korea is not fighting in Russia for no reason. They are taking part in this war, gaining experience, and learning how to conduct it. Even the missiles that are currently striking us are similar to the Iskander-M. They are, of course, being modernized in Russia. And Russia is working on how to improve these modifications. But North Korea will not use these missiles in Ukraine. It will use them on other battlefields where it sees an advantage to pursue its own geopolitical objectives.
Analysts at the Institute for the Study of War say Putin is unlikely to enter serious negotiations as long as Russia can continue using ballistic missiles to strike Ukrainian cities, taking advantage of Ukraine's acute shortage of Patriot interceptor missiles. The Patriot system is considered one of the most effective means of intercepting ballistic missiles. Meanwhile, Robert Magyar Brovdy, commander of Ukraine's unmanned systems forces, says Russia plans to increase the number of missiles used in a single massive attack by 2.5 times, to as many as 200. The figure includes not only ballistic missiles, but various other types of missiles as well.
The Kremlin is reportedly planning to launch a large-scale strike campaign against Kiev's energy infrastructure in the coming weeks, with the aim of disrupting Ukraine's efforts to strengthen energy facilities and taking advantage of the persistent shortage of interceptor missiles in Ukraine. From a publication by the Institute for the Study of War.
Amid the growing threat, President Zelensky said Ukrainian forces would destroy enemy launchers in an effort to reduce the number of ballistic strikes against Ukraine. A meeting of the National Security and Defense Council also discussed the possibility of new operations behind enemy lines, targeting Russian defense industry facilities involved in the production of ballistic missiles. Sanctions imposed by Ukraine's partners are also helping to disrupt Russia's production of weapons. For example, Austria has uncovered a sanctions evasion scheme involving a company based in Vienna. The company was used to procure highly specialized goods for Russia's defense industry, including components for the production of engines for missiles and fighter aircraft.
The missiles striking Ukraine are about 75% made up of electronic components from the United States. The rest comes from Europe and elsewhere. Japan is also among the sources. These supplies have not stopped. They continue to reach Russia through complicated logistical routes. There are various arrangements and agreements involved.
Canada has also imposed sanctions on the defense company Strike Group in recent days. The company produces armored personnel carriers and other military equipment that has repeatedly been spotted in Russia. According to the Canadian authorities, its armored vehicles are being used by Russia's National Guard in the war against Ukraine, reported by Dmytro Shulha, UATV News.
A leader in uniform, borrowing missiles from North Korea and losing his tankers to Western courts. That is not a man winning a war. Ukraine keeps raising the price. Thank you for watching In Focus. If you enjoyed this episode, then make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We'll see you in the next one.